think that is a perspective that is accepted by the community of nations. I don't think we see the United Nations as an enforcement entity. It is a community of nations where we feel we can come together and set standards and norms around, community behavior for humanity, and we hope that the acknowledgement of that and the acceptance and the commitment of nations that these things will be done. I think just as we try to do something at a national level where there are statements, recommendations, proposals put on the table, but they're not enforced, and there's an absence of pressure in order to ensure that we hold people accountable. It's a similar operation at another level. But I think the notion of, a police for the world is one that will take many discussions. I'd like to address the question of what is different about this report, what is new about this report, and then the second all-important question of actioning the recommendations that come out of this report. We chose to do the report on this issue. As I said, a human development report tries to pick out what is one of those key fundamental challenges that unless you address it makes it very difficult to move forward. And we had received, at least just at the UNDP, but I also know from other quarters, many requests for support from the countries of the region on how to address this issue. There have been efforts across the region, many of them. A lot of them have been law enforcement type efforts. There are social programs across all the countries in the region, which we're also looked into. A lot of them may be not related very closely to each other, which is one of the challenges that we'll have to look at. But we felt that it was important to put a human development perspective on the analysis of the security problem. There was a previous report done by another UN agency, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, together with the World Bank back in 2007, which was a seminal piece of work, but actually had a much more economic focus in terms of looking at the cost to public budgets of the investment to prevent crime, the cost of doing business, etc. And we wanted to build on that by looking at the things that drive the human development concept for UNDP. How do we enable and provide people with opportunity and choice to lead long, healthy lives and be an active part of communities that they can live in? So this is it's an additional perspective to build on work that has been done before. I think the issue of the assurances for action that Professor Harriet mentioned is one that came also throughout the consultations. We've had consultations now already in Suriname and Trinidad, and yesterday here in Barbados. And we had a very healthy discussion about the importance of advocacy in enabling that. Because there is need for work at both the level of the policymaker, because you need sort of also a shift in policy and legislation to influence action, but you also need an investment in knowledge and understanding and spaces for participation of the citizens to provide the public pressure that is necessary for action to happen. The interesting finding, for example, that social crime prevention is something Caribbean people feel is necessary, important, and willing to invest in, is an important one. But we all feel that we only think so in our own individual space. And I think this is where your role together with ours is important. We have to keep this issue in the public debate. We have to inform people as to the conditions, because it's through that knowledge that people drive the action by public officials. So that's just one thing I think will need a lot of emphasis. And from UNDP's vantage point, we already had very lengthy discussions nationally in Barbados and all of the ACS countries earlier this year to formulate our new UN Development Assistance Framework for the region, which will commence in January 2012 through 2016. The issue of citizen security came as a clear outcome area for action. We will be moving in the next months to define programs for implementation over that period, and we have already crafted that. Basically, we will be driven largely by many of these recommendations that are coming out of this.
Point has already been made about the commitment on the part of our population to social crime prevention. This has to be converted into programs, properly designed programs. That indeed is the next challenge after the report, to take these recommendations, mobilize support for them in key institutions, sites of decision making, as well as in the population, and to go beyond that to design appropriate and effective programs that will implement some of these recommendations, which is another general concern within the region, that we have had good ideas in the past, we have had good recommendations, but they have not been implemented. Populations want some assurance that this effort literally on the part of thousands, because 11,155 persons gave generously of their time in interviews with them, and another 1,000 persons, or more than 1,000 persons, have given even more generously of their time in the consultation, some of them staying an entire day, and of course appearing beforehand by reading. So they don't want this effort to, if you wish, go to waste. So that is a central concern, and I believe that the president plays an important role in keeping this issue alive. I think you two have a responsibility, just as though we have a sense of responsibility. We hope you have a sense of responsibility, because this is an important issue for the people of the region. A second area in which we saw common ground across the several countries has to do with the need to re-engineer our institutions, especially those institutions that are responsible for law enforcement and the delivery of justice, to make them more responsive, make them more accountable directly to the people. So there are a number of recommendations that have to do with, if you wish, perfecting, making more effective oversight bodies, and including citizens in these bodies. So more effective oversight of the police, and more effective oversight of courts, like the new one. But we want to increase